let's talk about the National Association of Realtors Part 2. This time, we're going to break it down into what this means for buyers and sellers.
Sometimes life just sucks, and sometimes it freaking rocks. We will discuss all the things from family and real estate to travel and just life in general. So take a seat, or don't, you do you, and welcome to the Lumbadass Podcast.
Yeah. So last week's podcast was all about the NAR settlement, and we went off on so many tangents, but I thought that it was really, really great because we really broke down a lot of things. We talked about dual agency and where we thought that that was going or not going and all the things, but we didn't really get a focus in on the consumers. So I want to know, as far as the NAR settlement, really quick, let me backtrack. It also states in the NAR settlement that we can no longer, as listing agents, write into the MLS what compensation is worth. So buyer's agents are no longer going to know what the seller is or is not willing to pay.
Well, from the MLS, they're not going to know.
Yes. So people are like, how do we get around this? Like,
putting our marketing hats on right now.
And that's what we're going to have to do, because I do think that is a huge marketing aspect. Like, there are crazy ass agents out there who do not do what they are supposed to do. They are shady AF, and we have to work with these people, and they will only show homes with certain commissions. It happens, you guys. Like, it's just the reality of it. Is it right? Absolutely not. Is it legal? Absolutely not. But does it happen? Yes, it does. So it definitely is a marketing strategy for sure. But to be fair, in all things considered, like, it's how we run our business.
Right.
Can run your business. It's how you can run your business. I have to be very careful with my words.
Let's just give a little disclaimer, like
Please.
Our little legal disclaimer, right? Our
Yes.
opinions are our own. They're not representative of anything else, just our own. And the settlement agreement that we're discussing, it's really our opinions about what's going to happen. But the settlement agreement is a proposed settlement agreement and has not been approved yet. So,
and it's supposed to be approved. Did you say May?
Well, this new one, I don't know, but the old, quote unquote, old one for the other brokerages that have already settled,
Yes.
that one is going for court approval early May. Yeah.
Okay, but I've heard that regardless of court approval, there still will be no BCO on
Correct.
the MLS.
It's happening.
Starting in July. Okay, so agents are freaking out, and it is what it is. But let's talk about let's talk about sellers first.
Okay.
Do we think this is a good thing, bad thing? What do you think this is going to do for sellers?
I think it's going to be good for sellers.
Okay.
And there's definitely pros and cons, but ultimately sellers are going to be a little bit more in charge of their destiny, so to speak.
Okay.
I think that agents are going to have to get creative, and there's some funny memes going around about this right now too, but agents are going to have to get creative about how they're marketing what the compensation offered is.
This is so funny. What have you seen?
I've seen like the listing description where the words are bolded or caps that say like 3%, but it's like written into other. It's pretty funny.
Yes, I've seen that too.
Yeah.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. Do you think that sellers are all of a sudden going to think that they shouldn't offer what the listing agent wants if they want to? Oh, do you understand what I'm saying about trying to get in trouble?
Do you think agents are going to stop offering comp?
There we go.
Yes. And I do think, sellers are going to think that. And I do think sellers are going to initially think that, and they're going to need their agent to explain to them why we're not doing that. Because ultimately, and I think this hinges on like market conditions. Like if we were in a buyer's market right now, which we are definitely not because inventory is way down. But if we were in a buyer's market right now where inventory were stacking, sellers wouldn't even be considering not offering buyer compensation. They would be like, here's your 2.5%, 3% all day long. Please sell my freaking house.
Yes.
Right? So I think it's a little bit conditioned or hinged on market conditions right now as to how sellers are going to think and what they're going to want to do. I think challenges for listing agents for sellers in this situation, like the first thing I keep thinking is how are we going to compare offers to have apples to apples, right? So if you have offers, say you have, like $1 million listing or whatever, and you have offers for $1 million, $1.1 million, $1.2 million, whatever. I mean, they're probably not that far apart,
But still.
But then you have one buyer who needs the seller to pay the comp. And then you have another buyer who comes in and says, no, I'm paying my own compensation. Well, so then how are you going to compare those offers? You're ultimately going to need the net for the seller to say, this is truly what your net is with all these different offers. And who's going to do that work? It's going to end up being us on the listing side.
Or escrow.
But they're not going to like that statement.
Well, I mean, it's just the matter of fact. If they want to continue working with agents, if I have 6 listings and I'm reviewing offers with clients Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, different client, like I need these. Sorry.
Well, on a side note, the other thing we need, like services from vendors, like I think lenders need to up their game too, because agents need to be educated. So, okay, we can't offer commission in the MLS. And again, it's the proposed settlement, but we're assuming we can't offer commission in the MLS, but buyer incentives can still be offered in the MLS, like meaning credits for repairs or termite or whatever. So I was talking with a Northern California agent who's in the San Jose market. And in Northern California, they do all of their inspections up front, and there's no repair negotiation because you've been handed an inspection report for the house. So the price is the price. It's actually like a better way of doing things.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But she and I were having a conversation, and she said to me, she's like, well, I think what might happen in our market is that you might see, if we can't offer comp or if our hands are tied here and there, she's like, all that's left is to be able to do the freaking repair.
Oh.
So she was like, and that's not dollars to a buyer or dollars to an agent. So she was like, I think also it's like every marketplace is going to be a little bit different too in terms of what is the norm. And I had to think that one through a little bit. Like we went down the chain of like, okay, you can't offer compensation, but you can offer a credit.
Well, so in the private remarks, there's an area on the MLS that says private remarks. You could just put in lieu of repairs, seller is willing to offer blank percentage towards closing costs.
Right.
There's going to be a way around it.
Yep.
So I'm very hopeful. Honestly, to me, it's just normal. I know I mentioned in last week's podcast that, a lot of the sellers didn't even know. When I was sitting here explaining these lawsuits that were happening to them, they were like, really? That's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it is, because there are certain buyers, we're going to jump into buyers next. There are certain buyers that legally cannot pay money towards a real estate agent. They cannot. They are not allowed to. You are taking a whole demographic of buyers and telling them to go fly a kite when they might be some of our most deserving.
Throwing them under the bus. Yeah. So you're talking about VA buyers and FHA buyers.
I am.
So VA buyers are veterans, and FHA is a particular type of loan that's typically 3.5% that allows a more entry-level buyer to get into the market because they have to put less down.
They're both government-backed loans. 3.5% is the minimum down. So on a $500,000, let's do $600,000 on a $600,000 home, you're looking at $18,000, $19,000, $20,000, $21,000 plus closing costs. But your down payment's only $21,000. I had this conversation in the spa with my kids 2 nights ago because Connor's like, "What? I can save up $21,000," and I'm like, "Bless you, child. Go right ahead. Save up that $21,000, and we'll get this worked out for you." But anyways, I digress.
Excellent parenting going on.
Thank you. We talk investments a lot.
I love it.
So anyways, I'm very concerned. And when I explain to my sellers, I really think that these entry-level buyers and VA buyers who are in my opinion, the utmost deserving, they were willing to lay their life down for you and I.
And how can we not help them get into a home?
I don't understand it. But if my bills are still going to come, I can't help VA buyers if I'm not getting paid.
Right.
So what the hell are we going to do?
Something's going to have to be done.
Agreed.
I think an exception will have to be carved out, or lending guidelines will have to change where ultimately the seller can pay that comp. And still sellers can pay the comp. It's VA buyers are difficult with the lending guidelines.
Right.
So there's going to have to be an exception carved out either in the settlement agreement, or lender policy is going to have to change. Somebody's going to have to go talk to the FHA.
But just so we're clear, that's not even being discussed. Like, that's not even on the books. And by the time it is, like, how long are these buyers waiting out? I got a phone call yesterday. I have $300,000 down. I want to use my VA loan and I want to buy a house. And it was like, we need to talk about how I'm going to get compensated. So let's get this scheduled, because I'm at a loss. And some people are like, oh, it's going to be super easy. It's this and that. It's not. It really just isn't.
It's not going to be easy, and it's going to depend on how fast acting those legal changes A, come, and B, if they come and they don't have these exceptions carved out, how quickly can they be fixed?
Yes, exactly. So going into buyers, I really think that this is doing the buyers a massive disservice.
Agree.
I think that I think sellers can be super educated on how to make this work, but buyers, you can't get blood from a turnip. So if they don't have the funds to pay you and the seller is not offering a co-op,
it's putting them at a competitive disadvantage.
Yes.
So ultimately, right now, the way that it works is that the buyer's agent commission is paid from the seller's net proceeds.
Yes.
And ultimately, we are going to be asking the buyer to pay our fee directly. And that's,
instead of financing it.
I was going to say,
Okay.
instead of being rolled into their loan. So we're asking buyers to come up with their down payment, which can be 20% of California home prices, plus their closing costs, which can be anywhere from 1% to 3% of the purchase price.
Yep.
I mean, I like to rough ballpark that at 10 grand, but like you can't. It's really a percentage of the purchase price. And then on top of that, another 3% or 2.5%.
Or whatever you charge.
Or whatever, commission's negotiable. But I mean, we're all still going to be charging our standard fee.
Yes.
So, but that being said, I do think, so I agree with you that the buyers are going to be at a disadvantage, a competitive disadvantage.
Yes.
What's going to happen is the buyers who can't afford to pay that fee or get agreement from a seller to, like, they're going to have to up their purchase price to roll it into the purchase price or their loan. Then what's going to happen is, I believe, and you let me know if you agree or not.
Okay, I'm here for it.
New models are coming. I think there are going to be flat fee models, and I think that if you like the buyers are going to come and say, I found the house, I want you to write the contract for me for a flat fee.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's coming.
Okay.
And then I also think, you know, you and I are in Southern California, but if you look across the country, marketplaces with lower price points where the skin on the bone, so to speak, of the commission dollars, you know, some of it goes to taxes, some of it goes to your broker. Then you keep the rest, right? But that number gets whittled away pretty quickly.
Yes.
If you look at, you know, markets where the purchase price is, I don't know, 300 to 500,000, which would be average across the country,
Mm-hmm.
the commission dollars are smaller. So I've actually heard from agents that have said, one of our good friends actually has said, you know what, it might make sense that I charge a flat fee. I might actually make more charging a flat fee for just negotiating the contract and doing less work because the buyer will go run themselves around to all the open houses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I think we're going to see a shakeup across the country as well as the marketplaces figure out what works for their market.
I totally agree with you. And I have to say, as an agent, I don't fucking care. I don't care how you run your business.
Right.
Because I do think there's an ass for every seat. I know that there are some times when I have to go to Walmart. Walmart is great. They have produce, they have vacuums, they have clothes, they have all the things. When I go to Walmart, I know that by the time I leave, I'm going to be royally pissed because I waited in line for 4 hours to only be told to go check myself out. And then they're going to want to check my receipt because they want to make sure I didn't steal anything after they trusted me to ring myself up to begin with in the first place.
Remember how much you loved Trader Joe's?
Oh my God. I love Trader Joe's. Even my kids, when I posted about it, Carson's like, no, not the crappy snacks. And
so that's it, right? You get what you pay for.
You do. And I know sometimes I have to go to Nordstrom's and they only sell clothes and shoes and sometimes makeup. And I'm thinking Nordstrom Rack, but Nordstrom's and you know, I can get all those things, but I can't get food. So Walmart is super convenient.
It's also a good comparison, Lauren. Nordstrom and Nordstrom Rack, like you are gonna that's what's gonna emerge in the marketplace. So on the one hand, it's gonna give consumers more options, which is good. More options is always
I agree.
good.
Yes.
But on the flip side, it's going to limit the buyers who can no longer roll that fee into their financing. If that can't be agreed or can't be worked out, then their options are going to be limited. And I'm not saying that the flat fee brokers are going to be of lesser quality, but maybe I am saying that.
I mean, hypothetically speaking,
You never know.
allegedly.
I'm sure there will be some great ones that emerge, but
and that's the thing. Like, we saw things we saw purple bricks come in. We've seen the help
And
you
go.
cells. Yes.
come and go.
We've seen the help you cells. We've seen all these models and stuff. The problem with that is that the contract is very detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
The contract in its entirety is written to protect the buyer. So in my opinion, there's a lot of liability that lies on sellers. And if a buyer's going to come in unrepresented, like, to me, that just is all the red flags.
Well, and I go back to, you and I are both coached by one of the great coaches, Tom Ferry.
Yes.
This is how we know each other.
Love him, by the way.
Heart him.
I'm always giving him a shout out. Like, if you ever want to come on my podcast, he's like, yeah, let me drive out to Corona when I live in Texas.
I feel like Tom Ferry should come on your podcast. I'm just going to put it forth right now. That would be amazing. You might have to do it on Zoom.
He loves me. I know. I bet
He
he would
does.
if he had time.
He would. I'm going to put that into the universe for you.
Thanks, girl.
But one of the things I come back to in thinking about buyers is Tom frequently talks about, like, your portfolio of homes under management, right? So it's not like we sell you a home and we're done with you. Like, you then come into the fold of, like, the Lauren Lombatis and Associates. Like, you hear from us, right?
Yes.
My clients hear from me, like, I wouldn't say quarterly, but we do regular events. They're always invited. I'm always referring vendors, services.
Sure.
I just referred a roofer recently. You know, like, you're in the fold, and we're helping you manage your home ownership, not in a formal way.
I
But,
love
like,
this.
No, I mean, we're not your property manager, right?
No.
But ultimately, like, when you're my client, I consider you a home under management. Like, I'm always going to help you get to the next place you want to go and help you. I don't know, if you want my opinion on a remodel, like, I'm coming over, we're walking through the house. Like, I do those things with my clients. And I think that what's going to happen is when you get to flat fee services, you're not going to have the same resources.
I agree. And I think the flat fee resources are going to be those agents who want to test the waters and want to get into real estate. They get into it and they realize what this is. They realize what the pay truly is after they've paid their taxes. And another thing to take into consideration, we don't have 401ks.
No.
We don't have health insurance. We don't have retirement. There are some companies that do offer stock options, but most don't. Like, the reality of it is
The cost of doing business.
right. And you know, I had a consumer ask me one time, well, you know, they talk about how the price of the home includes the commissions, right?
Right.
And so they're like, well, now are appraisers going to have to appraise properties differently? I think they're going to have to.
I think they are. They're going to have some real. So this is where I come back to the apples to apples of sellers evaluating offers. We're going to have to know where all the dollars are. And also, actually, this comes back to the same thing that I've maintained since we heard about these lawsuits coming in 2019. I know new things are emerging, but I really feel that this is just moving dollars around on a balance sheet.
Agreed.
Everyone is still going to get paid because no one's working for free.
Yep.
And ultimately, it's really just we're moving from one column to another column of who's paying what and how.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, do you want somebody who's working for free anyways?
No.
I really, truly don't. Like, I do believe that when I go to Joe's in one of my favorite restaurants in Vegas, like, I know what that bill's going to run me. But if I need something quick, easy, you know, that's still good, I can run to Chipotle too. So I know that there's a difference in the experience that I'm about to experience that, yeah,
Yeah. Same thing with like a Michelin star restaurant. Like,
yes.
And based on reviews, right? Like, those things are going to become much more important now.
I agree.
They always were, but more so now.
So at the end of the day, we've come to the conclusion that chances are business is probably going to run the same. Yes, we might see a few things infiltrate themselves.
Paperwork.
I think as quickly as they come in, as far as other brokerages and stuff, as quickly as they come in, they will probably be on their way out. And if they're not, the agents that circle through there, I think, are going to do that.
Agree.
Because once an agent realizes how much work goes into this, they're going to want more pay. Or once they realize how much they're really worth and what they're actually doing, they're going to want more pay, or they're going to leave.
I agree. So I don't know if you want to stop right there or if you want to go down another path.
What time is it, Billy? 20 minutes. We're at 20 minutes. We got 5 more. Let's do it.
Okay. So let's talk about the brand new agent, right?
Okay.
So like what you just said right there. Think about Zillow Flex teams, right?
Yes.
By the way, did you see the Zillow stock tanked?
Totally in the toilet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's what's, that model is expected to not do well now. So there are a lot of huge real estate teams across the country that are running Zillow Flex programs where Zillow's like feeding them leads.
For an exorbitant amount of money, right?
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's a
Tens of thousands. I know we're thinking of the same team. Tens of thousands of dollars a month.
it's a large number. But then that team has agents on like a lower split, right? They have those agents running around, opening doors, doing all those things. What's going to become of those agents in the large mega team? I actually think you and I are positioned to like crush it and take business from those brokers because those agents aren't going to be able to offer the same service that we as full service agents can offer.
That's very likely. I mean, like you said, it's a whole hoopla. And there is a difference between realtors in the business. Some are just top notch, top level, and you're going to build your brand amongst your consumer and they're going to refer you and stuff like that. And then you have the ones that get in, they sell for a year or two and then they get the hell out.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that we're going to see much change there. I think things are still going to happen the same. Like you said, I think it's just balancing numbers I love the way you said that, balancing numbers differently on a net sheet. And I think at the end of the day, people just need to be transparent. Like, stop being dishonest. Trying to remember lies, in my opinion, is just far too difficult.
I do think there could be more of that, though.
More lying?
Yeah, I do. Because
it's not being transparent because you can't put it on the MLS. So if I take a listing for 6% and then I tell my consumer what? Because
you might even take a variable listing. You might take a listing that's 3% to the list side, and then maybe the 3% to the buy side is variable depending upon what the buyer brings. And then how do you, is a buyer broker agreement private, like a listing agreement? How do you even know if the buyer's agent is getting comped by their buyer? So then how can you negotiate the best for yourself? I mean, I have a lot of questions there.
My mind is blown because there is a portion of the settlement that states that the agent cannot make any more than what they agreed to in the broker agreement. So if Nicole lists a property and I show it and she's offering 3% co-op and then I sign with you 2% and you're my buyer, I'm only going to get 2%. So where's that extra percent go? Does it go, it would go back to the listing agent or does it go back to the seller?
Right.
Oh shit. Mind blown. You're right.
I have a lot of questions there. We don't know the answers to those questions, but they're coming.
Okay, so once we have answers, will you come back and hang with me
Yes.
again? Okay, perfect. So we'll dissect it again. So buyers and sellers, contact your favorite real estate agent, honestly. Somebody that you know, love, not even like, but love and trust. And ask them, especially if you're thinking about listing your home or buying a home, ask them what they would do. Ask them about this situation and what their thoughts are, because I think you can gain a lot of insight. Thank you, Ms. Page, for being with me today.
Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
You're the best.
You are.